hopefully Nintendo doesn't copyright me for this, but there's actually been a debate that I saw recently that I'm curious about, and I've actually been thinking about. Is Link mute? I am dead serious. Now, in all but the CDI games, Link doesn't talk. I say all but the CDI games in that he doesn't have a voice actor except for the grunts and growls. I'm not talking text boxes. And I'm not counting the cartoon only because I'm going purely on the video games here. So the question is Link actually mute? Because you don't normally hear him talk. I actually have a theory on this. Depends on which Link you're talking about. There. I fucking said it. Because, according to the official Nintendo timeline, and remember, in the Theory series, Word of God trumps everything. Word of God says that there is a timeline. And basically, every Link we've ever played, except for a couple of exceptions here and there, is the same freaking Link. It's not the same freaking Link. I apologize. It's not the same freaking Link. That is not the same Link in Link's Adventure 2 as it is in Link to the Past. It is the same one as in the original Zelda game, and it's implied that maybe that... One of the things that people point to that Link isn't mute is he says there's a mirror under this table. Or there's a text box that says that. Now, I could argue that he was thinking it so you saw his thoughts and you're the character, so that actually makes sense. And I would say in all the games you're at least seeing the thoughts of the character if it says something like, you found a whatever, if there isn't like a Navi type character floating around with you. That being said, in the Hyrule Warriors game, the most recent Zelda game, although it's not considered canon, Link has a fairy interpret for him. So that particular incarnation of Link cannot talk, or maybe something about that universe makes it so he cannot talk. And he needs some help, and he gets some help from a little fairy. Fair enough. That being said, again, I do think it depends on your timeline Link. Some Links might be able to talk and you just don't hear them because the silent protagonist tradition. Others can't talk and actually are mute. Others may not be and choose not to. Others may try to but are mute and they want to talk anyway. Others don't shut up. Yes, I'm making the CDI games canon in this case. Again, it is separate timelines, so I can get away with this. So, with that being said, is Link mute? It really depends. Which Link? I mean, I could argue that maybe the original Link on Nintendo wasn't mute, but I think the one from Link to the Past might have been mute, or maybe he wasn't mute and we just didn't hear him talk. Maybe the one they got from Hyrule Warriors is mute. So, it could be mutism, because I also think that every single Link and every single iteration is actually like a blood relative of each other somehow. Well, let's just say I think there's a few branches that are linked together, and I don't think, except for probably the most recent incarnation of Link, and I mean timeline-wise, not video game-wise, was ever romantically involved with the Zelda family, so to speak, the royal family. So, that being said, I have a feeling maybe Sarah and other possible love interests besides Zelda are related to the more recent incarnations to Link, not the past ones. So, That being said, I think mutism might be a genetic disorder that passes down every so often from generation to generation. So there may be kids, Links and non-links alike, that can't talk. So, mutism might just be a disability that runs in the family. That being said, simply because of that, there isn't really much you can do about it. And keep in mind, this all started with a fairy boy in a forest that wasn't really a fairy boy. So, you know, and obviously this particular character got older, had children, at least in one timeline, if not another. There is the Majora's Mask one, but I'm not really getting into that. And from there, things kind of snowballed. And who's to say this particular character, you know, didn't have maybe brothers and sisters because they were abandoned in the forest, so maybe there are other members of the family that they eventually found and traced in one timeline if they didn't reproduce there. So, but again, my point is that, well, I think there is a family of links, essentially, and I think mutism is just a genetic disorder. Some of them may have, some of them may not have. And, you know, it's a perfectly legit excuse to have the main character not normally talk. I'm not saying he can't talk, he probably can. By the way, this would also explain why some iterations of Link are brown-haired and others are blonde-haired. It just depends on the relatives that give birth to the new Link. Because brown hair is a different gene than blonde hair. And usually if you have a blonde parent and a brown-haired parent, the kid's probably going to be brown hair. I'm living proof of this. My mother was a natural blonde. My father was a natural brunette. I got my dad's hair. So, there you go. That's my interpretation of Link, basically. I figured it'd be an interesting little, like, happy theory video as opposed to the horror games and weird shit I've been doing. Because, well, it's just something happy. And it is kind of an interesting, you know, thing to think about. You know, is Link actually mute? I don't think any of them are deaf, by the way. I think it's just mutism, that's the thing. And you can't be mute without being deaf, and you can't be deaf without actually being mute. Both are possible permutations, so yeah, there you go. That's my interpretation of Link from The Legend of Zelda. Bye!